Our class tonight, we shall be rounding up on interest rates, risk management. We started this topic like 3 weeks back. Under the interest rates, risk management, we are trying to look at how to manage the risk involved in interest rates. If a company borrows money at a floating rate, or where a company is planning to borrow money, the amount you pay on your borrowing, the amount you are planning to borrow, you are very certain of the amount. But the interest rate payable on your borrowing or on your investments, interest rate receivable on your investments, you are not sure. This creates uncertainty for businesses. To manage this uncertainty, to manage the uncertainty associated with interest rates, we explain the various methods of managing interest rate risk. What are these methods? We have method number 1, smoothing, whereby you are going to divide your loan or your deposit into 2. One part of the deposit will be at a fixed rate. The other part will be at a floating rate. Please, if you are joining the class, please check your speaker. I'm trying to mute. So we have smoothing. We have pooling of assets and liabilities, whereby some of your investments and your liability will be on the same interest rate changes. Excuse me. We have forward rate agreements, a binding contract between 2 parties. A binding contract in which 2 parties agreed on the interest rate payable or receivable on a notional amount of principal. With forward rate agreements, the interest rate is binding. Once you hedge with interest with forward rate agreements, we explain interest rate futures, a financial derivative contract can be used to hedge against fluctuation in interest rates. We equally discuss interest rate guarantees. Interest rate guarantees are short-term interest rate futures with a maximum maturity of 1 year. The option guarantees that the interest rate will not rise above or fall below an agreed fixed level. The interest rate guarantees are options, and this involves payment of premium. We discuss options on interest rate futures. These are options to buy or sell futures on interest rates. Hence, all the peculiar characteristics of futures contracts are still valid. We rounded up our explanation with interest rate swap. Interest rate swap is an exchange between two counterparties of interest rate obligation in the same currency on an agreed amount of notional principal. Interest rate swap involves swapping the interest rates between parties. Whereby two parties agree to swap interest rates. Now the question is, why would companies be willing to swap interest rates? What are the benefits involved? For two parties to go into interest rate swap, the first point is that interest rate swap provide opportunity for you to reduce your cost of borrowing. At times, a company may prefer to borrow at a floating rate. But comparatively, the company is better off borrowing at fixed rates. In this case, The company can borrow at a fixed rate, then go into swap with another company so as to pay floating rates. We shall be solving question on this tonight. Then we can explain more. If you are faced with question on interest rate swap, please excuse me. If you are faced with question on interest rate swap, there are 3 steps involved. Your step number 1, confirm the availability of profitable opportunity for swap. This is done by calculating quality spread differential. We shall demonstrate that tonight by God's mercy. When you are done with step 1, then you need to design the swap. Then evaluate your edge results. All right. Please refer to illustration 3 in your study pack. I'm not sure of the page. Illustration 3 in your study pack. Let us look at question on interest rate swap. Please, can somebody confirm the page? Okay, let me check. Yeah, page 133. Page 133. Question number 3. Please, let's go to this question. Last diet question was tested on interest rate risk management. Examiner look at question on forward rate agreements, interest rate futures, and option on interest rate futures. Whether the examiner will test question on interest rate risk or not, nobody is sure. But if the examiner is going to test question, he's most likely to look at interest rate swap. Now let's go to the question. Metalwork PSC. Play just 1 minute. All right, sorry for the break. Metalwork PLC wishes to borrow 200 million naira for 5 years to finance the purchase of a new non-current asset. The preference of the company's director is that these funds are borrowed at a fixed rate of interest. Look at that. The preference of the directors of Metalworks is to borrow the money at a fixed rate. The company's long-term debt is currently rated BBB, meaning that Metalwork PLC will have to pay 6.5 per annum for fixed rate borrowing. Alternatively, Metalwork PLC could borrow at a floating rate, that is, the prime lending rate plus 2.25% at the present time. The director of Metalwork PLC have recently been informed by its bank that TKPSC is also currently looking to borrow 200 million naira for 5 years at floating rates of interest, and its AA credit rating give its asset to floating rates borrowing at prime lending rates plus 1.5% per annum. TKPSC will pay 5.5 per annum for fixed rate borrowing at the present time. Requirements 1. Requirements A states 5 reasons that a company might have for entering into interest rate swap. Look at this to save us time. Reasons why company enter into interest rate swap. Number 1, there's flexibility. Interest rate swap can be designed to suit the particular requirement of the company or the customer concerning the time period, the amounts, etc. There's flexibility with interest rate swapping. It can be designed to suit the precise requirements of a customer. Number 2, low cost. The transaction cost involved, such as fees of swap bank and legal fees are usually low due to the degree of competition among the swap bank. So the fees charged on swap is relatively low compared to options on interest rates. Number 3 reasons: arrangement and reversion. Interest rate swap are usually very easy to arrange and to reverse. A swap bank may be prepared to act as a counterparty to the swap agreement. So it is not compulsory that you must get another company. A bank can act as the other party. And the swap agreements may be reversed before the maturity date of the agreement by reswapping with another counterparty. So there's opportunity for reswapping. Also, interest rate swap provide opportunity to reduce your cost of borrowing. Interest rate swap can be used to reduce cost of borrowing. The major disadvantage with interest rate swap is what we call counterparty risk. There is the problem of counterparty risk. If one of the party defaults, then the other party might likely suffer it. So please look at this so that we can go to the B part of the question. Requirement B, show how an interest rate swap could be used to the equal benefit of both parties. Assuming that the terms of the swap arrangement are such that MP swap payment to TK is to be 5.5 P's per annum. Now let's go to this. We need to divide the swap arrangements. Oh, I didn't plug my device. Oh yeah, God. Please hold on. I thought I plugged it so. Oh. I thought I plugged it far. Please, you might have to hold on for like 1 minute. I need to quickly restart my system. We have MP, we have TK. If you look at the question, fixed rate for MP, 6.5%. Floating rate for MP, prime lending rates plus 2.25%. For TK, fixed rate is, this company is rated BBB. This company is rated AA. Fixed rate 5.5. Floating rate, prime lending rate plus 1.50. If you look at the two companies, because of the credit rating of TK, TK can borrow at a reduced rate, whether fixed or floating. Because of the credit rating of TK, TK can borrow at a reduced rate. That means TK has comparative advantage, both for fixed or for floating. Two of them I want to go into swap. As in the question, PLL, prime lending rate. Please ensure you open the question. It's in the question. Your prime lending rate is like the market rate. If you get to UK, they call it LIBOR. Interbank offer. In Nigeria, we call it interbank lending. Please encourage us to open. All right. Now, look at this. The rate 6.5 minus 5.5. That will give 1.6. For float, a very important matter here. Internet unstable. I said, provided the arbitrage gain is not equal to 0, then there's profitable opportunity for swap. If you compute your arbitrage gain, and this happens to give you 0, that means There's no profitable opportunity for swapping. In other words, you don't need to go to step 2. There's points arranging a swap between the two. Now go to your step 2 now. This arbitrage gain will be shared equally between two parties. The arbitrage gain will be shared equally between MP and TK. That is 0.25 divided by 2. 0.125%. We now move to step 2. Design the swap arrangement. 1. Now let the two we have higher difference. The higher difference is coming from fixed rates. If you check the two rates, the higher difference is coming from your fixed rates. Now, please ask yourself, who is better off? Borrowing at a fixed rate. Is it MP or TA? Hello. Who is better off? Borrowing at a fixed rate. The question is for the class. I can't get any response. But for what I have here, TK is better off borrowing at a fixed rate. TK can borrow cheaper at a fixed rate than MP. In this case, 1, TK will borrow at a fixed rate of 5.5%. Number 2, please note, once party borrow at a fixed rate, the other party must borrow at a floating rate. Please note, once one party borrows at a fixed rate, the other party must borrow at a floating rate. MP, we have to borrow at a floating rate, prime lending rate plus 2.25%. Number 8. We pay TK its own fixed rates less share of arbitrage gain, less share of trade. That is minus 0.1. That will give me 6.375. Look at that number 3 very well. MP, we pay to TK its own fixed rates less share of arbitrage. For TK, we pay MP the prime lending rate plus 2.25%. In bracket, actual borrowing rate of MP this. Please, I'm very much sure that this is the first question we are solving. And please let us care. One thing with this, if you can master the pattern, pass your exam. Now, the final step. Evaluation of the edge results. We have MP. we have TK. You start with force raised directly. MP borrow directly. MP borrow at, or let me do this so I can follow that 1 to 4. Let me take TK first. I have TK, I have MP. Directly. 0.5%. That is the borrowing cost. TK borrow at 5.5. MP borrow at prime lending rate of 2.25. You know the borrowing cost. If you look at all these, borrow at fixed rate 5.5. MP borrow at floating lending 2.5. Going to swap. We have fixed. If you look at note number 3, we said MP we pay TK fixed rate less share of arbitrage gain. MP we pay 6.37%. So TK, that's 6.375%. To be received here, okay, and what about percentage? This is payment by MP, received by TK, 6.35. Under FTSE, TK we pay prime lending rate plus 2.25 back to MP. MP we receive prime lending rate plus 2.25. Your result now. Look at this. Minus plus. This will cancel out this. That means we are left with, for MP, we are left with 3 pence. How do we get where? Please, you can speak and speak. I don't understand. How do we get to where?
No, sir, I'm okay now. That was when your network fluctuated, and by the time you return, your screen was not sharing, but you've gone far. But when you scrolled up, I've gotten what I was looking for.
All right. Now look at TK. Minus 5.5 plus 6.75 rates plus 2.25 in brackets. If you work this out, you are going to get prime rate plus 1.375. This is what I'm going to do. Have minus 5.5 plus 6.375 minus 2.25. Remember, that is in brackets. This is what these three variables out. You are going to get minus 1.375. The prime leverage plus 1.375. Please feel free to ask questions, because this class is winding down. If I have class tonight,
Good evening, sir.
or by next week,
Hello, sir. Hello.
I can hardly hear the speaker.
Hello, sir.
You are doing the design.
Hello, sir.
Now, to appreciate
Huh. Network is breaking.
class to your personal self. Appreciate God. Assuming there's no swap, MP will have borrowed at 6.5 because his preferred choice is this race. And have borrowed at 6.5%. By going into swap, MP is borrowing at 6.375. That means MP cost of borrowing has reduced. I'll try to refer to the question. Now look at the question. Metalwork PSC wishes to borrow 200 million for 5 years to finance the purchase of a new non-current asset. The preference of the company's director is that these funds are borrowed at a fixed rate. The company's long-term debt is currently rated BBB, meaning that MP will have to pay 6.5% for fixed rate borrowing. That means without swap, Metalwork PSC would have paid 6.5% for his borrowing. By arranging a swap, the company is able to borrow at 6.375. That has reduced the cost of borrowing for Metalwork. Look at the next paragraph. The director of MP has recently been informed by its banker that TK is also currently looking to borrow 200 million for 5 years at a floating rate of interest. Its AA rating gives its asset to floating rate borrowing at prime lending rates plus 1.5. That means without swap, TK will have borrowed at the prime lending rate plus 1.5%. Now look at it. By going into swap, TK will pay a borrowing cost of prime lending rate plus 1.375. By going into swap, MP will pay a fixed rate of 3.75. We are done with requirement B. Any question, please?
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Please, sir, you have to take that B again. We hardly can hear you that time. The line was fluctuating.
Which aspect is that?
Sir, the P can you start from step 1?
Okay, why do already even piss off with this self? Like I said, there are 3 steps involved. If you are dealing with interest rate swap, the first one is go and come opportunity for swap. To do that, pick the 2 companies. And please, I always say this. Let the question be open on your system or your laptop. You have the fixed rate. The fixed rate for MP 6.5. Floating rate for MP. Prime lending rate 2.25. For TK, fixed rate 5.5. Prime lending rate 1.50. Please find the difference between the 2 fixed rates. Differences between 6.5 and 5.5, 1%. Differences between prime lending rate and prime lending rate, 0. Differences between 5. The differences is called arbitrage gain. And I was trying to emphasize this. If your differences is not equal to 0, that means there's profitable opportunity for swap. But if your differences happen to be 0, that means there's no point arranging swap. The arbitrage gain will be shared equally between the two parties. You can now go to step 2 now. Design the swap arrangements. For you to design, you cannot design with your personal intuition. You now go back to step 1. Under the fixed rate and floating rate, the difference here is 1%. The difference here is 0.7. Where you have the higher difference, that is where you are going to start from. Where you have the higher difference, that is where you are going to start from. You now ask yourself, who is better off borrowing at a fixed rate? I tried to ask this question severally. No response. Or maybe the network is not allowing you to respond. Who has comparative advantage borrowing at a fixed rate, where you have the higher difference? Yes, if you check this, TK is better off. TK can borrow at a reduced fixed rate. In this case, TK will borrow at fixed rate, 5.5%. Once TK borrow at fixed rate, the other party must borrow at floating rate. That was all happening our design here. TK will borrow at fixed rates, 5.5. Because that is where we have the higher difference. And TK is better off borrowing at a fixed rate. Then MP we have to borrow at floating rates. His own floating rate. He can't go and borrow at TK floating rate. Then number 3, MP will pay TK its own fixed rate less share of arbitrage gain. What is the fixed rate of MP? 6.5. What is the share of arbitrage gain? 0.125. That means MP will pay TK 6.375. They are now swapping. TK. We pay MP. The prime lending rate plus 2.25%. That is actual borrowing rate of MP. These are the 4 things needed. This design will now be used for your evaluation. Your step 2 will be used for your evaluation. Funds raised directly. If you look at number 1, we said TK should borrow at 5.5, while MP should borrow at prime lending rate plus 2.25. That is the money raised directly by the 2 parties. They now go into swap. If you go to your number 3, MP will pay TK 6.375. What is payment to MP is received by TK. Then the last comment, TK will pay MP the prime lending rate. What is payment to TK will be received by MP. You now do your plus minus. This is negative. This is positive. It will cancel out. We are left with 3.675 for MP. For TK, please pick your calculator. Negative 5.5, positive 6.375, negative prime lending rate plus 2.25, everything in bracket. What is your final answer? Yes, what is your final answer? Anybody computing?
Minus 1.375.
Minus 1.375. That was why we placed the 2 in brackets. You are done with your 7 marks. Now, I was not trying to explain it. To appreciate what you have done. Assuming these 2 companies do not go into swap, that means MP will have borrowed at 6.5%. By going into swap, MP is borrowing at 3.6. That means the borrowing cost has reduced. For MP, assuming there is no swap, MP will have borrowed at prime lending rate plus 1.5%. By going into swap, TK is now borrowing at prime lending rate plus 1.375%. The borrowing cost has reduced. You are done with that. What can we do? apparently which video? Have you even finished the class? You can now look at requirement C. Now look at requirement C. Identify with a supporting brief explanation which of the two companies will be disadvantaged if prime lending rates fall consistently. Within the 5 years term. This question is for the class. Which of the two companies will be at disadvantage if the prime lending rate falls consistently? Look at what we have designed. TK will pay prime lending rate plus 1.375. MP will pay a fixed rate of 6.375%. Now, assuming the prime lending rate falls consistently, which of these parties will be disadvantaged? Yes. We have the two rates. Which of these companies will be at disadvantage? All right. If you look at it, Metal Work we pay fixed rates, 6.375. TK we pay floating rates. If prime lending rate is falling consistently, obviously TK we pay a reduced borrowing cost. Why? MP is locked to a fixed rate. MP will be at disadvantage because it's locked to a fixed rate of 6.375. Let me put it here. MP would be disadvantaged if prime lending rates fall consistently for 5 years because the company in bracket MP is locked into a fixed rate of 6.375%. You are done with C. Local requirement D. Identify 2 risks that both companies will face should they decide to enter into swap. What are the risks? Counterparty risk. There are just 2 risks. One is default risk. One. Our D. Risk involved or arising from interest rates swap agreements. One, default risk. If one of the parties should default, for example, if MP fail to pay fixed rates to TK, TK will suffer some loss. Number 2, if interest rates if prime lending rates rise if prime lending rate rise consistently over 5 years period, benefits of the swap will not be realized. Excuse me, please. You are done with the question. Any question, please? We have like 45 minutes. Let's see if we can solve one more question. This exam is a test of resilience. Please look at question number 7. Please go to question number 7. And please, it's also good if you are looking at the question. I always say this to students. The issue of hedging, currency hedging, option hedging, interest rate hedging. It's an environment you can leverage on. All right. I'll read. Madva PSC is a large manufacturer of motor vehicle components. In recent years, the company has been embarked on a policy of expansion and now require additional loan of £100 billion over a 10-year period in order to build and equip a new factory. The financing policy of the company is to borrow at both fixed and floating rates of interest, and to use interest rate swap to obtain the required interest rate profile. The company enjoys a good credit rating and can raise fixed rate loan at 6%, floating rate loan at LIBOR plus 0.5. Don't be surprised. It might be your example. It's been since 2017. Interest rate swap has not been tested. We can only try. Those variables not within our control. We just try to manage it. Floating rate loan capital at LIBOR plus 0.5% from a bank. Madva PSC, which is to raise long-term loan, floating rate finance. Look at that. The intention of Madva PSC is to borrow at a floating rate and is considering a 10-year swap arrangement to help achieve this. A swap bank has been approved, and the bank has identified another company Genista PSC, as a potential counterparty to the agreement. Genista PSC is a large chemical company that has a reasonable credit rate. It can raise fixed interest loan at 7.8% and floating rate loan at 1.2% from its bank. The swap bank is prepared to arrange the swap and act as guarantor for both parties for a total fee of 0.2%. The two parties to the agreement will pay to and receive from the swap bank a fixed amount and receive or pay LIBOR in return. The finance director of MANFA is prepared to undertake the swap arrangement, provided it will lead to annual savings of at least 0.4%. And the finance director of Genista PSC is prepared to undertake the swap, provided it will lead to savings of at least 0.5. LIBOR is 6.2%. Requirements A. This, let us try to list it. The intent of this class is to be able to produce passes in 100%. Requirement A says, show with calculations how a swap arrangement can be devised that will meet the requirement of both parts, of both companies. What the examiner is asking you is step 1. Arrange a swap that meets the requirement of both parties, of both companies. Like I said, if you are faced with question on interest rate swap, the first thing to do, confirm the availability of profitable opportunity for swap. Now, please look at it again. Our A, you have the fixed rates, you have the floating rates. Now, you can start with any company first. I have Genista or Genista PSC. I have MANFA PSC. What is the fixed rate of Genista, please? 7.8%. Please feel free to ask questions. What I was trying to achieve is to solve two questions. What is the floating rate of Genistan? LIBOR plus 1.2%. Move to MAVA. The fixed rate of MAVA, 6.0. Floating rate of MAVA, LIBOR plus 0.5. Now get the differences. For the fixed rate and for the floating rate. 7.8 minus 6, 1.8. LIBOR minus LIBOR, LIBOR will go. 1.2 minus 0.5. We should have 0.7. Now you can now calculate arbitrage gain. Arbitrage gain. Difference between these two. 1.8 minus 0.7. That will give us 1.1%. Let me repeat my point. In as much as this arbitrage gain is not equal to 0, then there's profitable opportunity for swap. That means if the two companies go into swap, the borrowing cost will be reduced by 1.1. Now, in this case, we can share equally. Unlike the first question, we share equally. But here we cannot share equally. Each of the party has specified the condition for going into swap. First, our arbitrage gain, look at it. From the arbitrage gain, 1.1%, we are going to pay bank fee. Bank fee, 0.2. Is that not? We are going to pay bank fee payments. The difference between this, you are left with 0.9%. Now, MAVA director says they must be able to get 0.4. MAVA will get 0.4. Out of 0.9, you give 0.4 to MAVA. MAVA receive 0.4. That means you are left with 0.5. Then Genistan will receive the 0.5. We are done sharing. That means it is possible to devise a swap arrangement that will meet the requirement of both companies. Look at it. The finance director of MAVA is prepared to undertake swap provided it will lead to annual savings of at least 0.4. Why the director of Genista said is prepared to undertake swap, provided it leads to savings of at least 0.5. You have designed the arrangement that meets the requirement of both companies. The above analysis will meet the requirements of both companies. You are done with your requirements A. Any question, please? Any question, please?
Sir, so
You
let's say we
cannot go
don't
to,
need to do, sir.
yes, please.
So we don't need to do step 2 and step 3. We'll just stop here
No,
for
no,
this question.
examiner just asks you, no, for that A. That requirement A, we have finished it now. We cannot go and look at requirement B. Do you understand?
Okay, all right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Now look at requirement B. Provide an analysis of the interest cost payments and receipts of Magda PSC and Genista PSC in the first year, assuming the swap arrangement goes ahead. Please, what is the examiner asking you now? Any opinion? Provide analysis of the interest cost payment and receipt. What the examiner is asking you is now step 2. How much will Mazda pay to Genista? How much will Genista pay to Mava? What is payment to Mava? Is receipt to Genista. What is payment to Genista? Is receipt to Mava. Assuming the swap arrangement goes ahead. Can you now see now? The examiner is now asking you to go and produce step 2. Might be now. Design. Requirement B. We cover step 2 and step 3. Design the swap arrangement. Design the swap arrangement. 1. Now, please go and check your step 1. Where do you have the higher difference between fixed rates and floating rates? Yes, hello?
Genista.
The higher difference is coming from fixed rates. If you look at the fixed rates, difference is here, 1.8. For floating rate, 0.7. The higher difference is coming from your fixed rates. Now you now ask yourself, between Jenista and Magba, who is better off borrowing at a fixed rate? Yes. At least you can see my screen. Who is better off? Who has a better borrowing rate under fixed rates?
Jenista PLC.
Jenista will borrow at 7.8. Magda will borrow at 6%. Which one is cheaper?
Sorry, sir, Mava.
So it's even good you are speaking out. It's good you are speaking out because I'm trying to look for a way to ensure that you are able to get the knowledge. Jenista will borrow at 7.8. Magda will borrow at 6.0. That means Magda has comparative advantage, better than Jenista. In this case, look at your design. Number one, Magda will borrow directly at fixed rates 6.0%. Two, once one company borrow at fixed, the other company must borrow at floating. Then is that we have to borrow at floating rates. LIBOR plus 1.2. Then number three, Jennifer will pay to Magva its own fixed rates less share of arbitrage gain, i.e. 7.8 minus 0.4. No, 0.5. Jennifer will get 0.5. Lastly, Magva will pay to Jennifer the floating rates LIBOR plus 1.2%. That is the actual borrowing rate of Genistar. Actual borrowing rate of Genistar. Then 5 now. There's bank fee. The bank fee will be deducted from MADVA. I will explain that. You can now go to the final step. Evaluation of the edge results. You have MADVA. You have Genistar. Funds raised directly. This person borrow at fixed rates. This person borrow at LIBOR plus 1.2. Now the swap under fixed. Genistar will pay 7.3%. This will be received by MADVA, 7.3. Under float, MADVA will pay LIBOR plus 1.2. This will be received by Genistar, LIBOR plus 1.2. Now the bank fee. Bank fee, 0.2 payment. Now, why are we taking it from MADVA? If you look at this, the total gain is 1.1. Out of this total gain, we shared 0.5 to Genistar. We share 0.5 to Genistar. That means out of 11, out of 1.1, we have given 0.5 to Genistar. We are left with 0.6. That's 0.6. Everything is with MADVA. What we should have given MADVA is 0.4. We now need to remove this for here. You can now get your final answer. If you check this out, negative, positive. This will cancel out this. You are left with 7.38. We are left with 7.38. If you calculate this, look at it too. You are going to have LIBOR plus 0.1. Let's look at it. Minus 6 plus 7.3 minus 1.2 minus 0.2. Please work this out. You are going to get negative 0.1. Now these brackets mean LIBOR plus 0.1 negative. You are done with the arrangement. What you are saying technically is that Jennifer will pay 7.3 to Magva. Magva will continue to pay LIBOR plus 0.1. Now, to appreciate what has happened here, imagine there is no swap. Magva will have to borrow as LIBOR plus 0.5. Why Jennifer will have to borrow at a fixed rate of 7.8%. By going into swap, the two companies have been able to reduce their borrowing cost. I don't even know how to solve the question. But I was like, oh God. Requirement C, I only have like 13 minutes. But feel free to ask your question. Evaluate the swap arrangement from the perspective of each company. If LIBOR increased by 1.4% at the beginning of the second year and stay at that higher rate for the remainder of the swap period. Now look at LIBOR currently, 6.2. Second year. That means if I come here, you take the two borrowing costs for C. I have MADFA. I have Jenister. This person will borrow at LIBOR plus 0.1. This person will pay 7.3. If I go to year one, LIBOR is currently 6.2. 6.2 plus 0.1. This person will pay 6.3%. This person will pay 7.3%. Now, year 2 to year 10. LIBOR will increase by 1.4. 6.2 plus 1.4. LIBOR becomes 7.6. 7.6 plus 0.1. That becomes 7.7. Why this person will be paying 7.3? Who is at disadvantage? Hello.
$7.7.
7.7. MADVA will not be happy, because as from year 2 to year 10, MADVA will pay higher interest rates. If LIBOR should increase, MADVA will be a problem. You are done with your formats. You can just comment. MADVA will be committed to a payment of 7.7% from year 2 to year 10. This will reduce the benefits of interest rates swap. You can stop there, or you can continue. The company, in bracket MADVA, can reswap the transaction with another company to minimize its loss. Although this will involve costs, last aspect of the question. Briefly discuss the advantages and disadvantages of swap. We have done that before.